Okay, I'm Madi Dodson, and today I will be presenting on, this is going to be really sad if none of my transitions work. Okay, here we go. On educational theaters versus nonprofit theaters. In doing this, we will be looking at the investigation, the innovation, and the application of the educational theaters versus the nonprofit theaters, and then we will take a look at the comparative and contrasting elements between them. So to begin, we have the educational theaters. The educational theaters, according to Mirela Niestel in Educational Theater, is the variety of theater forms that have been deployed for explicit educational ends. So when you look at educational theater, their main goal is going to be to educate people, whether it be the actors or the staff or the audience. Educational theaters came about in 1960 in Great Britain. They are tax exempt. They qualify under the 501c3, but if they are not associated directly with school or university, they can be a little bit harder to qualify under that tax exempt status. There are, as I said, educational theaters that do exist that are not correlated with schools and universities. These can be anything from social expressionist groups to propaganda groups. It kind of varies, but they do establish themselves as educational unities that are informing the public. So I thought that was really cool. They are more than just schools. Some of the concerns that come about when approaching educational theaters, some people might be concerned that if the ultimate goal is to educate, you cannot be giving forth a true and pure expression of art. Some people believe that art and education cannot coexist. But other people disagree, and this is where innovation really comes into play. When it comes to innovation and educational theater, we all know, since we're all in an educational theater right now, that sometimes the support just isn't there, whether it be financially or backing from the board of trustees or whatever it might be. So this presents a wonderful opportunity for excellence for the people who are involved within the educational theater setting to learn how to adapt to what they're being given. According to Bruce Whitaker in Theater Arts Education Programs for Innovative Thinkers and Workers, he really stresses the idea that people are put into, when they are put into situations where they're being challenged, where there's obstacles to overcome, it pushes them to create and to pioneer a way to express themselves artistically in an educational theater setting. And this is really, really important for the innovation aspect of educational theater. Another interesting connection between innovation and educational theater is the fact that the staff that work within an educational theater have to be incredibly innovative. Every year they bring in a new group of students, a new generation, and they need to learn how best to communicate to that audience, to their students, in a way that presents their ultimate goal, to educate, yet to, at the same time, present art in a positive way. So they need to be willing to adapt to change. And that's just a really important correlation between innovation and educational theater. So moving on to nonprofit theater, if you look at the definition there, you're going to look at a theater who is bringing in revenue, but is not putting that revenue into an individual, a specific individual, but rather it is going into the organization itself or a connected charity or a foundation that is connected to the nonprofit itself. There is a difference between not-for-profit and nonprofit. According to the Nonprofit Incorporation, and this was found on the American Association of Community Theater, they discussed that a not-for-profit organization is one that does not expect any sort of profit to come in, whereas a nonprofit understands that there will be some sort of revenue that is going to be circulating. So if you're looking at a not-for-profit, it might be like a knitting club, whereas a nonprofit would be a theater because you're expecting those tickets to come in and you're expecting to make a profit. In our book by Conti and Langley, the theater management book, they discussed how there are several different components that exist when it comes to nonprofit theaters, and they work cohesively in kind of like a circular motion. It's constantly taking in information, processing it through the different levels, outputting it to the audience and then expecting it to be put back in so that you can continue to fuel and build up that organization that you're working with. When it comes to the innovation side of things, you're going to be looking at a lot of networking. For nonprofit leaders, you are not innately born with a lot of financial support, kind of like the educational leaders. You have to go out and you have to network and you have to find your resources. And this is an incredible opportunity for innovation because you're looking at different ways to communicate with people and you have to try different things. There's actually a innovation and optimization summit that happens every year where it's an opportunity for people who are involved in nonprofit organizations to come together and to really network with each other and share what they've been doing. And it helps create that sense of pioneering and creating an imagination. And this is really, really important when it comes to nonprofit. Not only to work with people who exist within the nonprofit theater world, but with people who exist in nonprofit organizations, period. So moving on into some of the compare and contrasting elements, we look at our educational leader, where the primary goal is to educate. You have a focus on outputting the information, on taking everything you have and giving it to the audience. And you have your staff, who are the educators, who have to constantly be reworking what they're teaching and learning and giving to the students. We have the nonprofit leader, where the goal is to provide a resource, send it out, and to understand that it's going to come back in. Your goal is to send something out. It's kind of like a boomerang effect. Send something out so that you can get it back in and continue to build up on your organization. So it has that input mindset, and then all the revenue goes back into the company or into an associated charity or foundation. And then some of the similarities, both are tax exempt. We talk about the difficulties sometimes with educational leaders if they're not directly associated with a university or a school. They have to be monetarily creative because sometimes they are not financially supported as well as others. And both are innovative. So I would like to leave you with the idea that through the investigation, innovation, and application of the educational leader and the nonprofit leader, you're understanding that there are so many different genres of theater, but there is a common thread that links them all, and I really feel like innovation and the ability to adapt and change is that common thread. So thank you for listening. Here are my sources.